Public transportation is often described as the great equalizer, a citywide network that functions as an engine for civic mobility, connecting neighborhoods to the metropolis. But in the early 20th century, municipal transit functioned as a mechanism of geographic containment and public humiliation for Black Americans. City planners deliberately drew transit lines that avoided Black neighborhoods. On the routes that did exist, Black riders frequently stood on corners watching empty streetcars roll past them, explicitly denied boarding by white operators. Our standard history of this era usually starts in the 1950s. We are taught that Black communities endured these conditions until civil rights leaders demanded a seat at the front of white-owned buses. Beyond those protests, a different group of visionaries stopped asking for access to white-owned seats and instead focused on the development of their own transit fleets. In 1905, Nashville, Tennessee was a city strictly divided by its streetcars. Segregation meant Black workers were either confined to the rear or left stranded entirely. A local businessman and preacher named Preston Taylor saw that ownership of the bus line was the only way to keep transit fares and labor capital circulating within his own community. Bypassing white capital, Taylor pooled resources from Black pastors, doctors, and barbers to launch the Union Transportation Company. It was an operation completely Black-owned, Black-driven, and Black-directed. 2 decades later, the strategy appeared again in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. By 1926, in the center of the tobacco industry, relying on municipal transit was physically dangerous for Black residents. Rather than petitioning the city for safety, 13 independent Black jitney operators united. They formed the Safe Bus Company, a network built to provide secure passage for its passengers. At its peak, the Safe Bus Company grew into a massive utility, 75 employees, 35 buses, carrying over 8,000 daily passengers. These routes were specific, connecting Black-owned pharmacies, schools, and churches, ensuring every fare stayed within the neighborhood's commercial ecosystem. These early ground operations demonstrated that when a public utility is weaponized, a community can bypass the blockade by building a parallel infrastructure from the ground up. By 1959, the barrier shifted to the suburbs. In Acres Homes, Texas, the municipal government refused extending bus lines into the distant Black neighborhoods. The community responded by founding the Acres Homes Transit Company. They navigated municipal resistance to become the first Black-owned bus franchise in the entire South. Eventually, the scale of this ambition outgrew the streets. In 1981, Warren Hervey Wheeler faced a systemic blockade. Commercial airlines were uniformly rejecting Black pilots, claiming they lacked the necessary qualifications for the cockpit. Wheeler bypassed the industry's gatekeepers and launched Wheeler Airlines, the first Black-owned commuter airline in the United States. Operating as a commercial service, Wheeler Airlines also served as an independent flight school, successfully training dozens of Black pilots the mainstream industry had ignored. When barriers attempted to ground Black ambition, pioneers like Wheeler launched their own runways, moving their workforce and their passengers directly over the heads of the gatekeepers. Analyzing this 80-year timeline reveals a consistent pattern. Black transportation history shows a series of calculated moves to secure economic independence. These vehicles were used to move communities away from dependency and toward self-sufficiency. This stands in contrast to extractive municipal infrastructure, where the state frequently built massive highways directly through the center of thriving Black neighborhoods. The records of the Safe Bus Company and Wheeler Airlines serve as more than historical trivia. They are proofs of concept, demonstrating that controlling the route is a prerequisite for economic autonomy. True power in a stacked system comes from possessing the capital and the vision to own the entire route, rather than negotiating for a seat on a vehicle someone else built.